Chapter 31. In the morning, once Rosner recalls the night before, he is surprised they do not wake to an angry group of bartending travelers who had their night interrupted by a group of outcasts. All of them that were there might have been travelers, but they still frequented the town. Rosner and the rest of them, well, the case is a little different. The only one awake so far is Kisra. Curious, Rosner goes over to her and sits down at the base of a tree beside her. He is not surprised she is up before the others, since they were the ones who took a beating. But it is odd seeing her like this. Kisra usually separates herself from the group, but this feels different, like she actually wants to disappear instead of only being distracted. In the morning light, Lass is nowhere to be seen, but Rosner knows it is there. All he has to do to confirm this is look behind him at the rest of the party, and the way Kisra is acting confirms what happened in the room as well. However, Rosner says nothing. He is interested in an explanation from her most of all, but he will not push the matter right now. This morning is too beautiful to spoil, with its barren landscape awaking from its slumber. "I would have been fine on my own," Kisra says finally. "It would have made for a difficult explanation to everyone, though. So, for that, I am glad you came." Rosner turns to her. "Kisra, I really do not understand what happened. What did you do to those men?" She smiles softly, which surprises Rosner. "We all have secrets we are afraid to reveal for fear of rejection." "I know we have not known each other for a while, but you can trust me," Rosner says. Kisra shakes her head and looks towards the others. "Believe me, or not, despite learning that you are running an errand for the Death King, it is not you I fear. Tyrian is the only other one that knows of what I can do. In part, he has taught me." She turns back to Rosner. "Perhaps when you learn to shield your mind, I shall tell you." Someone stirs behind them. Both of them turn to see Kanyu stretching. He looks back at them and grunts. "I figured you would advance on Sain." Both of them turn red. Before Savonia is fully above the horizon, the group is on the road, continuing their trek north. The landscape slowly shifts from sand to solid earth, with batches of trees becoming more numerous and tufts of long grass spotting the area. Each in turn shifts the bags on their backs into a more comfortable position. The initial idea was to have a nice, relaxed morning and trade their key trays for horses, but their little adventure at the bar and the desire to be rid of the town now has them walking. The entire way they do not encounter a soul, save giant scorpions the size of small children, or the occasional vulture flying overhead. Neither care to deal with them. Then, of course, there was another black Pegasus waiting for a silhouette to crawl out of the ground. Rosner pretends not to see it. On the fourth day, Huon stops, glances at Savonia and her throne and curses. They all stop in their tracks. Around them, the sand has almost all transformed to solid dirt, bringing hope to Rosner that they finally reached Greenland. However, it is not what he expects it to be. In every region, Rosner has heard one either has encounters with a city, several patrols, or both when traveling between lands. He has seen no one, not even fire smoke from a far-off camp. "We head too far west," he says. "I suppose that fight and loss Kanyu so generously started." "I started nothing," Kanyu snaps. "That damned barkeep had it coming for us. May Vayen guide him to the Black Tunnel." Rosner looks at the dwarf, uncertain. The others share some concerns, but say nothing on the matter. Instead, Huon shifts their direction in favor of the east and says, "Let us continue." Under new direction, Rosner walks up beside the orc and says, "We cannot possibly still be in the sea of sand." Huon shakes his head. "No, but neither are we in Greenman." He continues when Rosner looks at him cross. "The Sphinx and the Phoenix have a unique agreement. Currently, we are in the Senemas Bayren, or land between lands. It is a very narrow piece of land that spans the length of the border between Greenman and the Sea of Sand. It is neutral ground. Neither one claims it. But they will both defend it if a third party threatens to tamper with it under ill intentions. When travelers mention Greenman being a haven, they are really talking about the land between lands. Here, the rules are not as important. The punishment for breaking them is dangerous. You will have to answer to both the Sphinx and the Phoenix." The next day, grass begins to dominate the landscape. An abundance of trees and other plant life spread out before them. Rosner looks around. We have to be in Greenman now. Just ahead of him, Kanyu shrugs. "Maybe. They do not like using any markers in this area. Tend to let the landscape decide." Kisra has her eyes on Rosner. He can feel it. "The two lands are seen as the most religious compared to anywhere else," Kisra says, reading his expression. "They tend to have leaders with strong connections to the gods." Birds fly overhead. "I know the Phoenix's connection," Rosner states, hoping he hides his disgust. He still cannot believe he stabbed him, and with Kisra and the others one room over. But what about the Sphinx? "Sphinx is chosen through a series of trials," Kisra says. "Those who view themselves righteous of the position must first earn the favor of many of the land's people. Then those that gain the favor fight, arms, hand to hand, until one submits. Typically, 10 victors then travel to the Temple of Light, but nobody knows its location save the Phoenix. Those that return, and not all do, bring back a stone no bigger than the typical thumb. The Sphinx reveals the rune set in the stone, though I am not sure of the process in which the Sphinx does it. I do know that only one rune is accepted. To live, to lead, to guide." Rosner frowns. "I am not too familiar with runes." Kisra shrugs. "I would be surprised if you were. Only a select few know what they are anymore. I, myself, can only read a few of them." Then Cyan cuts in, saying, "Movement ahead." Everyone stiffens as they watch a group of 3 armed guards approach. After a few breaths, Huon tells them that they are a patrol for the Sphinx, and that it seems the group has finally made it out of the land between lands. The trio of orcs say nothing as they approach them. Neither do they. Instead, the two size each other up. 2 orcs flank the third. Each has a slightly larger build and an extra pair of tusks, however small they are. Seems like they are from the same region, just different families. One has stored a great sword and the other carries a great axe. The one in the center only wields a dagger on his hip. They all bear leather armor, studded, though their studs have gold hue, which fascinates Rosner. "I know many faces," the center one says in a tone like growling trees in the wind. "You are none of them. It seems then that you are travelers. Travelers that avoid travelers. What are such your reasons?" Huon takes a half step forward. "Travelers that avoid travelers such we are," he tells them, mimicking the orc's phrasing. which allows us life, roads less traveled. Audience with the Sphinx is what we seek, no more, no less. The phrasing confuses Rosner, but it seems the guards understand, although whether they want to or not may be up for debate. The speaker orc gives the group another look over, then says, "Follow," in an even, tree-groaning tone. He turns on his heels and returns the way he came. The other two follow suit. None of them turn to see if the group follows. Not that they need to. Huon, Cyan, and Kisra follow momentarily, leaving Kanyu and Rosner behind. It takes them much longer than Rosner expects before they reach their destination. Several hours after the two groups meet, they enter a small outpost and spend the night. The next day, Rosner and his companions saddle horses with the orcs and ride for a day more than half a cycle. Not a word is spoken by the orcs, less it is to give instructions. They pass through wood and plain alike. They also pass many creatures, most of which Rosner has never seen. Some he cannot see, but he can hear them, feel their eyes on him. Only a small handful approach them, some curious, some menacing, but they never come closer than about 4 strides. One night Rosner senses movement, but thinks it only the orcs. Huon tried to offer a shift so that they all can rest, but they refused. He listens but keeps his eyes closed. The smoldering fire barely gives off any heat. Only once a pair of giant west nostrils press against the side of his face does he realize it is something else. Its hot breath puffs against him, perspiration forming a thin layer on his skin. Rosner keeps still, even as the creature prods him with his nose. Oddly, its breath reminds him of the sea after a heavy rain. A deep rumble resonates from the creature's throat, almost like the purr of a cat, just more intimidating. Then it is gone. No sound follows its retreat, but Rosner knows it is no longer near. Rosner takes a few breaths, then sits up and looks around. All he sees is the group sleeping and one of the orcs sitting cross-legged just out of the fire's gloom. He stares at Rosner and slowly puts a finger to his mouth. He drops back to the ground, fear pumping through his veins. So, the creature was not his imagination. Part of him says he should be relieved, but the other part questions what kind of creature it was and why it approached him. Most important of all, what does it mean for him that the orc saw it and knows Rosner saw it? With these questions running rampant in his mind, Rosner does not receive much sleep. 2 days later, as Savona starts to peek over the tops of the trees in the mix of reds, yellows, and orange, they arrive in Klena, the house city of the Sphinx, and the orc that saw the beast has not mentioned the encounter once, though Rosner is doubtful he forgot about it. The city itself is beyond his imagination. Part of it resides in a large plain, while the rest lies within the canopies of the surrounding trees. Those supported by the thick branches are made of wood, while the buildings in the plains are either built of stone or earth, some both. A pristine cobblestone path connects all the buildings to one another. Looming in the background, like a painting taking up a majority of the canvas, is the spine. Several structures dot the cliffside, some of which being the only towers Rosner has seen in the area. At first, not many pay them much attention, but as they continue to the center, wandering eyes follow in distant groups. It is not long before they stand before the entryway of a garden surrounding a hovel-type building. Short and fat, it looks like the shallow hill with windows and doorways along its perimeter. The eyes do not gather or cluster, but rather remain immobile as they observe the strangers. "Wait," instructs the small orc before walking forward. They watch him walk up to the path and stand before the door. He says something and the door opens. revealing an orcish figure. Rosner has difficulty seeing any details. After a brief exchange, the small orc waves them over without so much as a glance behind him. The two remaining usher the group forward. Inside, under the dim light of candles and sparse windows, Rosner is taken by surprise. He knew the hill to be hollow, but having a set of stairs carved into the floor below on either side of the landing, opening into a foyer of what Rosner can only describe as honest beauty, is the last thing he expects. Most of the light comes from a single tiered chandelier and torches set high into the walls. Although two windows do peer in, most of Savona's light cannot enter the room, given her current position. The landing and stairs are made of wood, but the floor itself is compact dirt. 3 hallways leave the room, one at the center of the other 3 walls. Tapestries, which look to be past Sphinx, are spread out along what Rosner now notices as slightly tapered walls opening up to the ceiling. And across the way is a balcony positioned just a hair higher than the landing. Waiting for them in the center of the foyer are the 2 orcs, the other one shorter still than the one that came with, and this one being female. Once they are several strides apart, the small orc announces, "A child of the Chosen allowed admittance to you. Grateful you should be, having been granted such. The gods seem to have you in favor, but before any shall meet Sphinx, all must first do so with our child." A single question remains unspoken, and so after a brief pause, the orc so gently adds, "individually." Besides Rosner, Kanyu growls, "You are really making your way to being my least favorite individual." Rosner knows the shot is at him. It surprises him that it hurts as it does. Huon volunteers to go first. They watch him walk with the orc women to the hallway under the balcony and take an immediate right before they disappear. No one speaks, even when Huon returns a short while later, though the orc seems disturbed. Cyan follows, then Kanyu, followed by Kisra, though her meeting is by far the shortest. She is gone no more than a minute. All of them appear somewhat distraught, Kisra more than the others. None of them make eye contact with anyone as they re-enter the foyer. "You now," prompts the orc. Rosner nods and carries on. Entering the hallway, there is a door immediately to the right. Plain, nothing special. But it is the expectation of what is behind it that causes him to waver. But he reminds himself about his siblings and pushes it open. Incense chokes the room. The candlelight is a touch less than the foyer. In the center, the woman orc waits, seated at a small table, an empty chair across from her. Behind her is a shrine dedicated to one of the gods. Across from him, a cloth blocks an entryway. "Sit." Her voice is calm, but the air is commanding. He does so. "What did you tell my friends?" Rosner asks. She looks straight ahead, almost through him. "Only information of regards to them," she answers. Her eyes are glazed over, unfocused. He has seen this before. Maybe at the market? Wait. Is she blind? "At learning of your arrival, Shakri requested the questioning of all of you. She still is unsure if the moment has come." "Who is Shakri?" Rosner asks. "She is the one who sees all," the woman orc says. "The one who space and time gifted. The one that shares the night with Perelios." Rosner shakes his head. "They are the eyes of Perelios." The orc lets a small, dry smile play on her lips. The only wisp of emotion Rosner thinks he will get out of her. Such words only prove how little you and everyone else knows about the faith they follow. Not sure how to respond, Rosner stares at her. What is she even talking about? Is this why the others looked so unfocused? Quiet, she comments. Like the others, though each one underwent different emotional states. Why am I here? Rosner presses. The woman orc lays her arms across the small table over a thin, black cloth with an intricate white pattern sewn into it, palms up. Lend me your hands. Rosner hesitates, but follows her instructions. He figures the quickest way to leave is to follow her lead and do as she asks. He is surprised to find her hands soft and gentle, and when she wraps her thumbs around his hands, the grip is loose. Then she lets go. Remove your talisman, she instructs. He knows he said the quickest way to leave is to follow her instructions, but why? It should not be necessary, she admits, but yours is exceptional. I'm curious to know where you acquired it, but not that curious. If you would? He does so. Then they repeat the process. However, their hands barely touch before she pulls back, like an animal recoiling in pain. Return your talisman, she instructs, a faint influx in her voice. Rosner does so, more confused than ever. So, what now? We are done here, she says, but I have learned all that I require to learn. The orc cuts in. She then raises and walks towards the cloth. She stops before it, one hand on the material, and says, Show yourself out. We will meet again shortly. I must prepare. She does not stick around to let Rosner know what she is preparing for. Neither does Rosner stick around long after she leaves, though he does have some brief hesitancy. The only thing that runs through his mind is, what just happened? Outside in the foyer, the rest wait where he left them. They all sit in silence. Rosner does not know how long they wait, but at some point a human guard appears in the hallway. He does not say anything, but his appearance causes the orcs to stir. They gather the group, and soon all of them walk down the length of the hall to a single oak door, plain in design. The human guard raps on the wood and then opens it before taking his place on the opposite side from the other guard. Inside, a throne of simple design sits on a single dais. Candles illuminate the small room before rows of bookshelves along the walls. Sitting, waiting for them on the throne, is a woman who has known Esturm for several more of his reigns than Rosner, and she has a sword laying across her lap. He has to force himself to keep walking. The sight of such a young ruler is shocking to him. Not quite as shocking as the phoenix, but surprising all the same. The orcs give a slight bow before leaving the way they came in. A moment later, the child walks in through a side door and stops at the phoenix's left side. Why have you traveled to request my audience? She demands. Her voice is subtle, but powerful. Huon steps forward and gives a slight bow. Sphinx, I asked not you, orc, she says. I asked the one who sought my presence. The orc looks back at Rosner, who looks back at him with vague concern. They switch places, and Rosner gives a slight bow. Sphinx, Rosner says, I have been told to seek your help in finding a cure to save my brother. He has been possessed by Asander himself, or so I have been led to believe. Though she does not reply right away, Rosner is a little surprised she does not flinch at the mention of the god. In fact, she seems completely unfazed by it. And how have you been led to believe such a conclusion? She asks. Why is it I you come to, and why is it Asander you believe to be the cause? This is the question Rosner has come to expect, but he still finds it difficult to answer. Not because he cannot, but because those he talks to are unlikely to believe him. The Death King of the Seven Realms, and when the Sphinx makes no attempt to interrupt him, Rosner continues. And someone the Sphinx called Etherus. The mention of those two names in the same conversation usually results in a deadly future, the Sphinx comments. She holds her composure, but Rosner knows he has her attention. And with the Sander being the possible route is nothing to shy from. The matter will be looked into. We are done. Rosner looks at her, taken back. But I need your help. The Sphinx nods. And the matter will be attended. This is not going to end like this. Etherus mentioned realm jumping, something not even he can do. At the mention of realm jumping, the Sphinx rises from her seat, hands her blade to the child, and strides up to Rosner. It is not until she is in his face and whispering harshly that he notices her left breast is gone. Her cold, green eyes stare him down as her voice cuts the air around the two of them. What do you know of realm jumping? She demands. Rosner tries to meet her gaze, but ends up staring at her chin. Nothing, save that you can do it, a feat it seems the gods themselves cannot do. She snorts. They can do it if they so choose, but for them, doing so will only bring destruction. Why do you seek this? To help my... There is much more than that. Rosner sighs. There is, but there is not. I seek audience with Pirellios. The Sphinx breaks into a smile. Pirellios has been dead for eons. He figures it might come to this. So we all have been led to believe. But I am beginning to think we know very little about the gods. And I think you know Pirellios is alive. I think you know little of what you speak. I have been told by Etherus Savonia is his other half. Savonia is the life-giver. For a moment, the Sphinx stays silent, peering over the one before her. It seems he has struck a chord. The only question is, which one? Then, very well. She walks towards the door on the right. Follow me. But when everyone else starts to move, she turns around and says, Only him. Rosner stands still. They come as well. Sphinx chuckles. I do not believe this to be a negotiation. We both want answers, Rosner tells her. I need your help, and you want to know precisely why I need yours. And that can only be done if I get my answers first. She looks at the group, then back at Rosner. You may find this decision regrettable.